Welcome to Built with Purpose. I am Chris Fay, and this is the show where vision meets execution and leadership leaves a legacy. From design studios to innovation hubs and product lines to skylines, we meet the people building more than great companies. They're creating culture, driving impact, and shaping what's next. These are the stories and strategies behind how the world gets built with purpose. Hey, so welcome to Built with Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Chris Fay. With me today is my friend Burton Hackney with JORIS, general contractors in Texas. Super excited about our conversation today. We've already been prepping a little bit. So, Burton, welcome, man. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. My first podcast, so I just got to throw that out there. So bear with me.
Yes, dude, it's okay. I told you before the show, if just you and I listen to it, we win.
That's right. We're winning already.
Yeah. But no, I met, Burton, you and I met maybe a couple months ago in your office there in Texas. And I love the conversation, kind of learning about, JORIS and what you all do and just kind of the culture and the connection that you all have in the business and the legacy. And you've taken over a company from a previous executive and business owner and leader, and actually similar to my story as well. So I want to dive into that today and kind of just talk about some forward-looking tech and everything. But first, I'm gonna ask you an icebreaker question. So, if you weren't in construction, what would be your dream job? What would you do if you weren't in construction?
And that's changed a lot through the years. I don't know. I might be a professional golf caddy. I just got back from a day at the Masters yesterday, so I'm a little inspired currently. Or like a rock and roll roadie, man. Be like a tech hand for U2, or I don't know, man. That's just where my brain goes. It's like no cares in the world, right? Of course, that's no kids or family or anything like that. Like a total dream world. So,
you don't have to be like on the stage, but you're there witnessing it and watching it and still getting to experience it. So
I'm just in the vibe. I'm in the flow. I'm just on the road. Living the dream. Yeah,
I love that, man. You had a better day. I was there on Monday, and I got dumped in the rain. So yesterday was a beautiful day. I'm sure.
It was stellar. It was so good. I feel jealous now. Yeah. I mean, I feel guilty that you were there on Monday.
It's all good. We had a great day. We made the best out of it. But all right, so that's cool. That's good. Yeah. So kind of like tells me a little bit about maybe the type of leader that you are, and so I'll kind of poke around a lot about that. But so first off, Burton, give us a high level recap. Like who are you? Give me a little bit of insights into JORIS and maybe your path to leadership there, and then we'll just kind of poke around on some topics.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because when you're here in our office and we visited, I think we may have done about an hour-long podcast sitting there just figuring things out. Man, we just kind of wove in all these different things, and then when you called, I said, "Yeah, that might be interesting." So we got some things to talk about.
If we just would have recorded that while we were there, we would have been done.
It would have been done. No, I've been in the business. I've been in the construction business now for 33 years. Came out of college in the middle of a recession in the early 90s and got into construction by chance. I studied business and economics in college and just fell in love with building. And so I didn't ever think it would be a career. I come from a family of non-builders. I come from a family of lawyers, and they're not really good at much of anything with their hands. So, the fact that I landed here it happens sometimes. So I spent about 22 years before I came to JORIS, working for the U.S. military. We did a lot of DoD work all over the country, did a lot of traveling, East Coast, West Coast, everything in between, and then came to JORIS about 10 years ago. JORIS is a family-owned company, second generation. We started in 1967 here in San Antonio, and had always been a San Antonio-based company. And then about 11 years ago, we had a client here in Texas that started spreading out around the state and asked us to go with them. And so we said, man, if we're going to really go serve them well, we probably need to get out into these markets where they're going to go. So we started opening up offices in Texas. We started in Dallas, then we started in Austin. About 7 years ago, we went to Houston. And so now we're a Texas contractor. And so I came on about 10 years ago when we started our Austin office. I'm from Austin. And took that on. We had 3 people and, had a resume of work for here that we did here in San Antonio and made a go of it. And so it's been a fun ride so far.
Man, I think about 1967. It's unbelievable. I mean, the TPM that I lead, we were 73, and I mean that's an older company. So 67 I mean, so like think about that. I mean, so 67, you came in 10 years ago, so still a pretty old established company. Like what was it about Joris that kind of attracted you to them? I mean, what made you come to a company like that?
It really was I met Gary. So Gary's a second generation owner. Gary's dad started the company in 1967 as a trade partner. They were a subcontractor and really had a passion for doing things right, for serving people well, and then grew into a general contractor as time went on. And so Gary took it over, and I knew somebody that was working here at the time, and they just had a really great culture. And I knew that they were in a market that we wanted to serve, and it really was an opportunity, to be honest with me, too, to stay home and start building in Austin. And Austin was growing a lot. Austin's not the same city I grew up in, and so yeah, I think it was a little divine inspiration. Actually, I always say the Lord has a sense of humor, so He said, "Hey, here's a door if you want to go through this one." So I did, and it seems to be working out pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's my father-in-law that started our business. He always says meant to be, things are meant to be. And it's funny how, things kind of come together and you think about like, all those little moments in your life, that like in the moment, you're wondering either why they happened or they might be like a negative experience or even a positive experience, but like how it can change the entire trajectory of your life. You think back. I'm curious, like, so I have one I'll share with you, but maybe to think about a question for you is like, what's one of those moments in your life? And it can go all the way back to whenever that you feel like there was not a course correction, but maybe like it was something that just fundamentally happened to you, good, bad, or indifferent, that you feel like is the reason why you're sitting here today. So, do you have anything off the cuff on that?
Yeah, man, you're gonna get me to tell some stories I didn't think I was gonna tell today.
Hey, bring it. I told you I'm going to pivot. I told you.
I thought we were gonna talk about construction, man. You're gonna start asking me about my life.
No, it's about construction.
For me, it was probably sitting. I did a short stint in the mountains in Colorado after I got out of college, because I just think I needed to get it out of my system. So spent some time in Colorado, and I just realized that I was in charge of my own destiny, right? I was going to be in charge of my own happiness, and just said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I just want to go do something I enjoy," right? I didn't want to go be a lawyer. I didn't want to go, work in Wall Street and that stuff. And I just really loved building things. I just loved being around creating things and saying, "Hey, we did that." And so I came home and found an opportunity in construction, and I said, it's worked for 33 years later. But I think that was a moment because it put me on a path that I never thought I would be on. Right? I didn't go to college to get into construction. But yeah, it's just worked out. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. I was thinking, going back and thinking about, and I don't share this publicly, but like I guess I am now. But I go back. There's a handful of moments that I can actually go back to, but one that sticks out. So I grew up in Atlanta, and I was always a Clemson fan just because I had family that went to Clemson. But then all my buddies were going to UGA. And so when I was applying to colleges, it was kind of UGA first, then Clemson, and then Auburn was second. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew that those were the schools, and Georgia was the one. And I was a good student, but I wasn't like tip top student, but I had a good 3 point something GPA and a decent SAT score, and I didn't get into Georgia, and it like crushed me. Like it absolutely crushed me. And in the moment, I was like, oh God, I guess I'm going to end up going to Clemson, but I ended up going to Clemson. And, by the time I found my path there, it was in construction, and met my wife. And then, just fast forward to today, like I would not be sitting here right now if my friends down in Georgia would not have
crazy.
Me. Yeah. So it's crazy.
We got a lot of same stories. That's crazy because I grew up in Austin. Austin was a lot different back then. Austin was a small town, probably 300,000-400,000 people. And I got out of high school and I applied to two schools. I applied to the University of Texas and I applied to Texas Tech. I had family from West Texas, and I got into both and thought I was going to go to UT. And I got out of high school, and I remember going down to a party, something in the summertime afterwards. And I was just seeing all of these guys that I went to high school with. And I liked them, but I remember saying, man, I've already done this. I said, something's got to change. And so I came home and said, hey, I'm going to leave town. And it was the best decision I ever made because I got out of town, lived on my own. I was far enough away. And yeah, it totally changed the trajectory of my life, and you're just like, you look back and you're like, okay, why did that happen? Right? So Yeah, it just does.
I tell you, I was on a podcast with a friend of mine, and it was his podcast, and we were talking about like these little moments, and he said, he's asking me like, what did I learn from it? And for me, I think the biggest thing is it's given me confidence that anything that happens to me, good or bad in my life, likely there's something pretty amazing that can come out of it, And so like it's changed the way that I like face challenges, and I go into this, I'm like, man, this sucks right now. But you know what? Like, I know there's something good. I know there's a plan for me on the other side of this. And so I'm just going to trust the process and like embrace the suck and hopefully learn from that. So I think just going through it enough times, has given me some confidence, just face anything, knowing that you got good stuff on the other side.
Yeah. I think if you can face the world, you just realize that there really isn't any way that things should be, right? We put our own paradigms around how we think things should work out, but that's not true. I mean, it's like, so if you just kind of give up this idea that there's a way things should be, that's just the way that things are, man, the world becomes a lot easier to navigate because you just take them as they come and you're like, okay, well, I didn't see that coming. So what are we going to do with that? Right. So everything that comes into your life becomes opportunity instead of like, okay, that is not what it should be. And then you're trying to rearrange what's already been for no reason other than it's not your paradigm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. No, you're exactly right.
It's a lot easier way to navigate the world. I found that to be true for myself when I just like, there's just no way things should be. So they just are.
I think some people go through here and they're fearful of things happening to them, or they're in situations and they kind of live in fear. But if you kind of lift that and you're like, hey, look, like this world's going to bring me obstacles and fun things and challenging things, and I'm going to face them, right? And I'm going to do the very best that I can in the process. And if I do enough good things right, hopefully good things will happen on the backside. So.
You would hope, but you never know, right? It may not, but it's not going to change what's in front of you, right? I mean, and that's a great way to think about business too. I mean, we think we got control over things, right? We can strategize, we can plan, we can put things in motion, and then events happen, right? The last couple of weeks has probably taught us that a lot. It's like, okay, we have no control over some things are happening. All we can control is how we're going to react to it. So, all right, so who are we going to be in the face of uncertainty? Who are we going to be in the face of, what we don't understand is happening in our market? And that's the choice we get, right? We don't sit here and opine about, man, I wish it was different. It's not. It is what it is. Let's go deal with it.
Right. So I'm curious, like in your role leading JORIS there, like how do you lead? And you, so when did you, sorry, just take a step back. When did you take over as president of JORIS?
November of 93. So it's been about a year and a half. Yeah. Been pretty recent. Yeah, about a year and a half. I'm trying to think. It feels like a lot longer than that already. So it's gone by pretty fast. So
how do you, I've got two questions, but maybe starting with the last one, is like these messages, you've got lots of employees. Hundreds and hundreds of employees across multiple locations.
700. Yeah. 700
employees. Okay. Across all your locations in Texas. And, oftentimes the people want to hear from you. They want to hear from you and your voice, and like this message of like focusing on what we can control and, these things happening. Like how do you, like, what have you found that's really worked for how you communicate kind of these messages and these visions to the company?
Boy, that's a great question. We're rethinking that actually, because we as we've grown, that really has become the challenge for us. Is how do we still effectively be communicating to people that really can hear it? We've tried this medium, we've tried doing it online, and we don't think that's the best for us. And so we really are intentional about trying to see people face to face where they are, trying to schedule rhythms in the way that we operate the company that gives us opportunities to interact with people and teams and be present with them, so we'll go to we've got 4 regional offices, and Texas is a big place, but very intentional on the time that we go there. And we just create access for ourselves to our employees and say, hey, I hate calling them town halls, but that's kind of what it is. When you say, hey, y'all come, and what do you want to know? And we will be transparent about the business, and we tell them what's going on, and we'll do some structured communication, but we really are trying to think of how do we do that better right now. And so if you got the answer, Chris, I'm here for it. But for us, it really is about being available, because I think that the best way that we do it is when you can see people and you really try to understand what their struggles are, what they want to know, or what their fears are about the market, especially if somebody's only been in the business for 5 or 6 years and all of a sudden they've never seen a downturn, right? They've never seen uncertainty in the marketplace. And they're like, what does this mean for me, right? Is my career going to be okay, right? Or are we still going to have a job? And so to be able to speak into that personally as opposed by email or something else always makes a difference.
And so how do you get people to open up to you in these environments? Like, obviously I've got some thoughts on this, but you go to a town hall and you pull your teams together and you want to try and ask questions, and you probably have people that are more vocal than others, but how do you reach the people that might not be comfortable speaking up in those areas? I mean, how do you kind of foster that environment um, to have them open up and ask questions so that they can get these things answered?
I make them feel uncomfortable. I look in the room. I'm like, hey, man, you got something on your mind, don't you? Yeah, I'm that guy.
I'm between you and the door, so you got to make this.
Yeah, just come on. I think it starts with this you try to be as authentic as you can, right? I'm a pretty transparent person. You ask me what you want to know and I'll tell you. And so I think when you can bring authenticity into the space with people, they tend to open up a little bit more with you. As I found that to be true for myself. And you just give them permission. I mean, first of all, you have to give somebody permission. Say, hey, like, if you just come to me, right? You can send me an email, you can call me, you can come in my office, whatever it may be. And that the bigger we get, the tougher that becomes. And so you really got to work at it. And I really think that really is my role. I mean, not only leading the company and thinking through strategy and making sure we have a really effective executive team, but making sure that I'm still hearing people and being connected to them. And it's tough. The bigger you get, the harder it is. And that's the piece I don't like the most about being in this seat, to be honest with you, is that you get further away from the people that you really want to see how they're doing more. And it becomes tough. So,
yeah. But I think, that just letting them see you as an authentic leader, right? I mean, that kind of carries the culture forward and, inspires them to like open up lines of communication with the leadership team and other people inside of the company. Cause obviously you can't have 700 conversations multiple times per year. So you have to scale. But yeah, one of my favorite studies was one through Google called Project Aristotle. It was done years and years ago. And a word that we use inside of our business is, and basically what Google did is they went around, they studied all of the top performing teams inside of their business. And they found, there was this trust and et cetera and alignment, blah, 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 kind of inside of the pyramid. But the foundation of it was a term they called psychological safety. And it was this foundation of being able to openly communicate with one another without any fear of repercussion, and I think that one of the challenges I've had kind of, in leading our businesses is, you tell people that you let them know about, your culture and the way you expect to be communicated to. And I think a lot of companies say that, but not a lot of companies actually do that. And so we found that we not only need to tell and coach and kind of teach this concept of psychological safety, but we need to show them what it means. And like, I'm curious, we talk about kind of like your leadership team, but like, I think like for our leadership team, we talk about it's great to have an open door policy, but sometimes you need to bring people through the door. You need to bring them through and show them what it's like to actually have one of these authentic kind of psychologically safe conversations. And, that's probably been one of the hardest things is, through, and our company's not nearly as big as yours, but, scaling through your leadership team, how do you make sure that your leaders are empowered and carrying forward the same culture? So I'm curious kind of how you manage that.
Yeah, you got to model it, number one, and it starts with a group. For me, I've got a group of directs and you show up that way, right? You model authenticity, you model what it looks like, that interaction, and then you ask them to go do the same. Or it's all right, okay, so you go do this with the next level down, you go do this next level down, and then you keep checking in on those levels. But for us, because that really is just our culture, right? I mean, for us, our strategic bet is that we've got a culture that fosters that empowers people to go live that out authentically, and that people want to say, this is how we want to operate, and it's like, I'm not giving you a choice. It's like, I'm going to ask you to go live for a mission and a set of values and some leadership behaviors that are going to come out of that, and we're going to hold you accountable for that. And so we are a company of servant leaders, and so we're not going to let people through the door for the most part that don't get that. And you'd be amazed at how many people don't get that. I mean, I've interviewed people that have got incredible resumes. I'm like, well, you have really done some great work. And I say, explain to me what it means to be a servant leader. And I'll get like the RCA dog look, and they're like, I was like, and I just very, very transparent with them. I said, if that doesn't resonate with you and you can't even articulate, I said, you might not be a good fit here. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's because I can't set you up to win, right? If you can't understand how to go be a servant leader, not you have to be perfect at it, but can resonate with that, me bringing you into the organization is not serving you well,
Yeah, because it has to be a good fit for not only your organization, but for them as well, right?
100%. I'm going to go ask somebody to behave in a way and show up in a way that is not in their DNA, or they're just not really how they're wired. And so, we really haven't gotten to the point yet where we can test people, so to speak. I hate that word, but like try to filter guys out that way. For me, it's always, if there's any key hires, it's like, I just want to meet with them, right? I mean, do you understand when I start talking culturally about who we are? Do you align with that, right? Because we can teach you the technical skills that you need, right? I mean, but are you adaptable? Are you curious, right? Do you have a servant's heart, right? Do you understand what it means to be in line with the culture? I mean, if you got a great resume, that's great, right? But we don't hire for aptitude. We hire for culture. We really do. Because, yeah.
No, I just think about, what was built before you and now what you're shepherding into the future is a long-standing brand and company that's serving your community, right? So, you're hiring really for the long term. It's not just like, hey, I've got to get some people in to do this one job. You're carrying this legacy forward, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't a straight path for us. It's been a journey. We call it the JORIS journey, but, we've been around since 1967, and we were small. We're not small, but we were a San Antonio contractor. We served the San Antonio community and had a core group of people that really understood what that meant, that had that legacy from Gary and from his dad and could replicate that easily in a small community. But as we started to grow and get regional, it became a struggle, and we didn't really anticipate what that struggle was going to be. But we started getting some feedback from clients and some other people saying, you guys just aren't quite showing up the way that you used to, right? Our quality was bad. Our trade partners were getting some bad, giving us some bad reviews. And Gary, to his credit, just said, something's off, something's off. And so we sat down in probably 2017, I think it was, and we just hit reset. And we said, we had a JORIS way. We call it the JORIS way, which is basically a manifesto that told the story of the company and who we were and what, but it was a lot. It was a lot to digest. And so we spent months and months and got all of our key employees around the country, leaders, and the leaders and even lower level guys that have been here for a long time, and said, we want to distill all this down, and we want to reset who we are and what it means to be JORIS. And we went through a very long process, and we landed on kind of redefining ourselves and who it was. The mission and who we are is still the same, but it just became easier to communicate, and just said, there's no going back here, right? That is our strategy. So we are in the business of transformation, right? We say we're in the business of transforming people and places, meaning that when we leave a place, not only are the physical places going to be different, but the community is going to be different. The people that we work with are going to be different, not in some weird way, but they're going to be saying, all right, that's a process we want to do again with those guys, right? It was so life affirming, right? It was so positive. That we call that a powerful partnership, Chris, meaning that we can have a relationship that's based in trust and communication, right? That can survive anything and still get exceptional results, And it's difficult to have powerful partnerships. It takes a lot of the things that we're talking about, authenticity, honesty, and you got to be willing to sacrifice and say, hey, what is best for you guys, right? If we can't serve you guys in a way that sets you up to win, then we're not doing our jobs well. So that became the core of who we are. We have a new set of values, and that's just, we live by the transmission of those values, and we really do. And the people that come in, we give them full permission. We say, we expect you guys to go live this way, right? And there's a set of behaviors that come out of this, and we're going to hold you accountable to it, right? We want you to serve others and develop and transform people. You got to be collaborative by nature. We expect you to collaborate with people. We expect you to create powerful partnerships, what it means to go serve somebody and really make sure how we go do that well. You got to be positive, right? We're going to exemplify positivity. We're not going to take the people that come in that are just poison to the culture. We're just not going to tolerate it, And for us, you got to do everything safe. We're in the construction business, and it's not many businesses where you can come into work and not go home in the same place. And we take that very seriously, because for us, it's about families. It's about, we say, because we're a family first organization, that everybody's got to go home the way they came in. And so,
yeah. So, going back to that time and just thinking about, probably a lot of those things were already foundations of your company. Some of the things
100%,
they're already foundations, but maybe the growth had gotten to such a pace that it was more about trying to manage the growth than it was about really leaning into those. And so maybe I'm just kind of curious, like this pivot point, was it just kind of a reaffirmation and a refocus of what was already kind of in the DNA of the company? It just needed to be bubbled up and kind of put at the forefront?
Yes. And and we had to be really honest with ourselves that there were some things missing that we just, we had been very good at transmitting what we were talking about earlier, transmitting this, who we were and how to do things organically, because we were small. And as we got bigger, we just said, hey, we got to make sure that we are raising leaders, right? We're putting tools in their hands to go lead well, that we're developing people, right? That we have a culture that's sustainable and accountable. And we had to develop language around that. We had to create work processes that celebrated who we were. We like to catch people doing the right things now. And there's not a meeting that we have in an organization that doesn't start off as like, all right, show us where your values and actions. Where are you seeing our values lived out? From the smallest meeting to the biggest meeting, we'll have meetings with clients. Say, hey, you guys have to bear with us. We're going to talk about being safe, and we're going to talk about celebrating some values.
Yeah, I love that. So kind of carrying that forward for you. So you've been in this role since 2023, and you were obviously a part of that kind of that planning process and that repivot, and now you're like shepherding this company into the future. Like what I guess two things. Like, what does the future look like, for you and for JORIS as you kind of carry over the next 5 to 10 years, and then maybe just like what's some of the things that keep you up as far as some of the challenges that you're thinking about as you shepherd this company forward?
Oh man, I have more gray hair now than I had a few years ago, so that's for sure.
My forehead keeps getting bigger too, so
yeah. We are betting the farm, Chris, so to speak, that our culture is our strategic advantage. I will tell anybody that will listen, I said, there's 100 companies in every town that we work in that can do exactly what we do. They can go win work, they can build work, and they can build buildings. But it's how we do it that we think makes a difference. That when we show up for clients, that people are going to experience a way of building and having a collaborative process that says, why would we ever want to hire anybody else? And we've got a promise. We've got an internal promise to ourselves of how we're going to show up, that we're going to be this company-wide team of servant leaders who transforms people and places through building excellence and building powerful partnerships so that we can enrich the lives of the people and the communities where we work. And that is our strategy. Our strategy is that we can go live that out every day at the lowest levels, from my seat to the lowest levels of the organization, that we're going to win. Does that make sense? Because don't get me wrong. We are competitive as the day is long, and I hate losing more than I like winning, But we think how we're going to win is not what we're doing, but who we're being, right? And so it's a little bit of a touchy subject, but that's really who we are at our core. And so what keeps me up at night is that we got a lot of families, right? We have a lot of people on the payroll now, 700 employees, and just making sure that we have an effective strategy, that we're growing the business wisely, that we have a way for people to have lifelong careers here. When we hire people, I tell them, I said, I want you to do everything you want to do in your career here, right? And that's, to me, that's a big responsibility. And so making sure that we foster a place that's healthy, and is growing. We really don't grow. We don't have growth targets that we're targeting. We just want to make sure that we have enough opportunity for all the people that we have to continue to grow, if that makes sense. And so for us, that means more,
Yeah. And I think about, a couple things in that. Number one, I think that's super admirable. And I think honestly, I think that's why one of the reasons, that you and I kind of hit it off is I think we think the right way. And for us or a similar way, I think that, same thing, you can get technology in a lot of different places, but you work with us because of us, right? And because of our people and our process and the culture. And one of the things that we've had to learn, obviously, is also not every customer is right for us, because we talk about our ideal customer profile, and you all might call it something different, but like for us, it's growing firms in the AEC and manufacturing space that, are needing help, like all the things that we have. But, one of them is that, they're people that we like to spend time with, and they actually want to partner. They don't want to just buy from a vendor. They actually want to invite somebody in to help them grow, which means they're open-minded and culturally aligned. And I think that's been a challenge for us as we've grown. And just by nature, it's hard to think about turning down a customer that's wanting to pay you money to do something. But, we really, I would say over the past 3 years have really leaned into this ideal customer profile and just said, look, there are so many like amazing businesses, and being in the tech space, we cover a large geography than you all do, but, but we're look, the world is our oyster. Like there are so many opportunities, so many great people out there and so many great companies. Wouldn't we want to spend our time there? So I think that's just been one thing as I kind of hear you speak is like, you've got this culture and the JORIS way and this like, this thing that you feel like is going to shepherd you in the future. And I mean, my belief is that when you align those with customers that appreciate that and people that want to be a part of that, like it's endless. And you all can take the company wherever you want to go. And I think the other thing, just, and we see it in the tech space and you probably see it in construction, is just, there's this external pressure sometimes to grow, like in tech, venture firms and mergers and acquisitions, and you got to do this and you got to take on money and you got to scale and you got to blah, blah, blah. And you got to do all these things. And, we've bucked the system a little bit and said, well, we want to grow on our terms and not on somebody else's. Because as soon as we're growing on somebody else's terms, trying to hit some number or trying to hit some size or growth rate, we lose kind of the value. We lose our focus on what we believe truly differentiates us. And I'm sure in your space, there's this pressure to say, well, gosh, now we're in this location. Let's go to, Oklahoma, or let's go West Arizona, or let's, and
thankfully we don't have that aspiration. We have set a vision for ourselves to be the most admired company in Texas. I mean, we are a Texas brand. We're a Texas contractor. Texas is our home. We think we got all we can eat in Texas. We really do. And so that might change, but we don't see it for the foreseeable future. There's parts of Texas we haven't even sniffed yet, And so it's a big place and we're really lucky. I tell people that all the time. I say, we are blessed, man, because we get to live in the 7th largest economy in the world, right? 85% of the economy happens in what they call a golden triangle, which is Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. And we operate right in that place. And I said, I don't know where else you'd want to be in the construction business in the world than Texas right now. So we got all we can do here. And so, but I'm with you on clients. And so we would never weed them out, but we certainly know that there are people that, and it really is up to us. And I tell our teams this all the time, because there's like, help me understand what it means to be a powerful partner. I said, as far as it depends on us, okay, it is to create powerful partnerships is how we show up and serve people. And if you have people on the other side of that relationship that could care less and they just want it to be transactional and say, hey, whatever you do is just get it done and we'll hash out all the details, that's fine. But we probably will not be in the long-term game with those type of people. Doesn't mean they're bad. It's just like they just don't want to do, they have no sense of saying, wow, that is really something that's a value add to us. And that's something that we want to continue. We were just we do not want to be a transactional. That's not our business. We're not because then when we become transactional, then your people just become resources, and then you just really are driven by the revenue and like trying to get every list that you can get. And we could care less about that. We really want people to have careers and lives and do it better than others. We still want to be great builders. Don't get me wrong. For us, I tell we hire a lot of young people because we've got this huge gap in our industry right now. We've got people my age that have been in a long time, but we've got this middle gap that's kind of missing, and we're bringing a lot of young people into the industry now. And I tell them, I said, it's not a marathon business. It can be for your career, but it's kind of like HIIT. You do that high interval training. You'll go through these seasons where, and you're gonna work hard, right? You just have sprints of 2 or 3 months on a project, and it will wear you out. But then it will stop. And you'll get a break. But it's like interval training. I said. So you got to be okay with that, but this is it should not be an 80-hour-a-week job, and there's a lot of companies that do that. They'll run really lean and they run people hard because of resources. And I said, you can't go be a good husband. You can't go be a wife. You can't raise kids. You can't go serve in your community. If you're working 78 hours a week, you just can't, so we have to find a way to enable and empower people to work smarter And so that they can have margin to go live their lives and be great parents and just do the things that they want to do outside of work. You can do both. And so that's really the challenge, especially in our industry when there's so much inefficiency, so.
Well, it's still a people. Things have to be done and put together with people, and lots of organizations and field labor and leadership teams and suppliers and subcontractors and designers all have to come together. But what I love what you're saying, Burton, is just in general is just like being so clear on who you are and where you want to go. Right. And it's just like exudes out of you. And like that messaging obviously comes through your organization. And so, kind of going a little bit, we talked kind of in the prep a bit about, there's this gap in bringing a lot of younger people in, and then you have people that have been in the business for a while, and there's expectations that that the younger generation might have that the more seasoned generation doesn't. But then there's also this knowledge transfer of you've got all this experience, and for my days in construction, like it's still an experience based business. There's so many little intricacies that you have to learn. I guess how do you just kind of maybe a two-pronged question, but number one is like, what do you think on how do we best transition the knowledge from, the experience into the new individuals? And then, one of the things we found is the new folks are really looking for opportunities to embrace technology and artificial intelligence and automation. And so like, how do you leverage technology to start doing more in the business so that you're addressing workload with not just more people or more hours, but actually with, a smarter way to work? So let's kind of wrap on that a little bit. I'm curious.
We haven't cracked the code there yet, but I will tell you it is on my mind every day, right? Because everything is going so fast. I will tell you that when I came into the business, the first thing I was told was, you go here and don't say anything for probably like a year, right? Just keep your mouth shut and just listen and learn, right? that was it. So I took that to heart and I said, okay, but I'm not a very good person at staying quiet. So after a while, I had to start talking. But the point was well taken, is like, you don't know enough. You don't know anything. So you really have no value to add. So just go and be a sponge. And that's one thing about construction is it's not like another profession where you can come in and, man, you do something very technical, or you're an engineer or something. You can come in and add value right away. Building buildings, especially at the scale that we do, it just takes time to understand it. I mean, you can understand the workflow, you can understand what my job is, but you have no experience of what's going to happen, at the middle of a project when something goes off the rails. You just got to live it. And so part of what we have to tell people when they come in, especially the young ones, is look, we're going to move you through a career path and we're going to try to accelerate that. But a lot of what you're going to have to do is just take time, right? It's going to take experience. And so some people in that generation have not a lot of patience for that. They were like, hey, man, I'm ready. I want to go lead now. I said, well, it's hard to go lead when you don't understand what you're doing. So how do we accelerate that? Because what we really need to do is take that 3 to 5 year person that's coming out of college that is smart and adaptable and curious, and accelerate and create some velocity on their learning curve so they can go do more sooner. And so I don't know the answer to that question yet, but like you and I were talking about, I think the technology can have a place in that, right? Of just how do we get the people that have the knowledge to transfer the knowledge to this younger generation quicker? And so it's almost like they can queue it up. Like, okay, what do I do in this situation? If they've got a great old mentor that like a superintendent that's been doing it for 30 or 40 years, they say, hey, let's go talk to Chris. What would Chris do? Right. And they go talk to Chris. Well, this is what you need to do. Oh, I didn't think about that. Well, where can they get that from AI at some point? Where does that knowledge repository live where they can ask the questions? Because that's really what it is. It's like, okay, I think I might know what to do, but I really don't know how to handle this situation. What's the right thing? So,
well, especially I would think just like in an organization your size too, is that, you have somebody that's working, let's say in the Dallas market, and there's a good knowledge transfer happening there, but then you might have another individual in the, in the Austin market that might not be sharing the same experience. And so it's like, you've got these great things that are happening kind of all across your organization. And how do you ultimately congregate that, and I just think I thought back, like one of the things that's hard for me and probably for you, just because we're so busy in leading our companies, is,
hey, by the way, we need to find another word for busy. That's my challenge for you, by the way. Like I'm so tired of saying I'm busy. All right. We've got to come up with something different. I mean, it's true, but I'm like, God, I'm tired of saying it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. And I think honestly, like when I came into the second quarter, I had this like overwhelmed feeling of the amount of things that I had to do, and I just realized that either I'm going to figure out a way to scale to do all of those things, or I'm just going to reduce the things that I need to be focused on. And I decided to reduce the things that I'm going to be focused on, and really move the needle on the things that are going to make the biggest impact. And there was a book I read called The One Thing that I love, and it was, I love that one. So I just have to remind myself, because I know that I'm ambitious by nature, and I can take on a lot, and I can manage a lot of stress. But then it kind of hits a tipping point. It's like, God, like how did I end up in this? And then
I'm not being very effective, and for most people that come up that are achieving, I say that I don't say that with any, not a humble brag, but I mean, we're used to getting a lot of things done, right? And that's a winning strategy for us, right? It's like, hey, I can juggle a lot of balls. I have the wisdom to know which ones will bounce and which ones will break, and I'm really good at that. But at some point, as good as that is for you, that also becomes the ceiling for your effectiveness on growing the organization going forward. And so you almost put by the thing that has made you successful becomes the lid that keeps you from taking the next step. And that is very difficult. I'm just, as a leader, I'm telling you, that is difficult. And you have to have people around you that can hold you accountable to that too, and check in on you and say, hey, tell me a little bit about your week, right? How you managing your time, right? Are you filling your buckets? I mean, how's your marriage? Are you taking care of yourself physically? How you doing spiritually, right? How's your work? And so, in realizing that you need check to stay in balance and say, all right, I can't do all the things. I can't do all.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I struggle with sometimes is asking for help, and then the delegation. And one of the things that I've had to learn over my career is just scaling through teams and people and letting them go out there. And it doesn't have to be done my way. And I remember when I was running construction jobs years and years ago, like sometimes you just got to like take the bull by the horns and like make stuff happen. And it's not the right way to scale. And so like, I think like my narrative has changed to understand, like I have to scale through the right people that are able to spend the time, and they're smarter than I am in these various areas. And I need to empower them and make sure that we're aligned so that we can do more, because I'm capped out with the amount that I'm able to do. And I think that's where kind of the stress comes from, is trying to take on more than you reasonably feel like you can accomplish. But no, I love what you said about just the accountability of who's checking in on you, who's making sure that you're doing the right things and you're focusing in the right areas. Because I think ambitious, kind of driven people, we can just all of a sudden within 30 days be back in it. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I've got all this stuff to do again, and I'm just like back in it. So it's who's gonna continue to pull us back. And I think like having a team of people, around you, whether it's internal or external, or your family, or a forum group and peers and others that can hold you accountable, is the way to do that. So,
but for us, and we're not here yet, is that the goal would be to have an organization that's got leaders within it that are learning how to do that for themselves, as they transition. So in the construction business, from a project manager or a superintendent, and they become a senior level leader. That means that they're responsible for teams and outcomes to either director or executive, which means that they're really just leading people and shepherding them, that they're holding their teams accountable for those behaviors as well, as opposed to just continuing to make them resource driven, right? Or get it all done, how the numbers look, are we going to make the budget? Are we doing on schedule? And checking in on them and saying, how's your time, right? What'd your week look like this week? Are you delegating enough? What are you working on that you're really adding value to? Are you staying in your lane and not trying to do all the things? Because when you have an organization that can self-check itself, and you have leaders that are really doing it as best they can, then you tend to stay pretty healthy, and so, but that's always a challenge.
Yeah, we did a couple of our executives sat down kind of as we were going into the second quarter this year, and we had this general feeling of overwhelmed, and we kind of dissected. So we pulled our calendars up, and we're going through all the meetings over the past 30 days, and said, all right, let's kind of talk about all these ones. Which ones did you actually need to be in, and which ones did you not? And when the ones that you were in that you didn't need to be, why were you not in there? Or why were you in there and actually doing the work? And the reflection that we had, and it has nothing to do with our leadership team and the quality of those individuals, but oftentimes when the senior leaders ended up doing more stuff is because there was either a breakdown or something not being done at a lower leadership level, right? One of our direct reports that requires us to step in and help do these things. And so we were sitting there talking about, well, a lot of these meetings, right, we're being pulled in because there's a weakness on either the leadership or the team. And it's not the leader's fault. It's our fault for not teaching them and empowering them and enabling with the skills and the tool sets. And if we don't do a good job teaching them and empowering them, it's going to continue to pull our time down. So we kind of bucketed each of these and said, all right, kind of these top 3 areas. What do we need to do there? What do we need to do there? What do we need to do there? And kind of attacked each one and said, all right, this individual needs coaching and whatever. This individual needs some more people on their team because they're being brought down. This individual needs some additional training. But it was a good reflection to just kind of take a step.
How long did that process take you?
Oh, we sat down for like 45 minutes. I mean, just super simple. Like pull up your calendar, go through. It was like boom, 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 boom. And just kind of talked about it. Why were you in that one? What was this? Why did you take 2 hours here? And then just said, all right, cool. Like, I think we got a game plan. And so we took about 45 minutes to dissect it and analyze. And then we probably took another maybe 30, 45 minutes to get a game plan down. And now it's holding ourselves accountable to make it happen. Right.
So we're kind of going through that same thing ourselves, just looking at our leadership rhythms, if you would call that. And so we kind of sat down there. They had one of my executive team members in my office that day. I said, let's just start writing down all the meetings that we are doing as a team, right? And we're doing those things, but we're also doing them in 4 regional offices too, right? We're doing them in 4 different locations. And man, we came up with a list, and I said, okay, look at what we just wrote down. How much margin do you think that we have left after all this time, right? Because not only that, we're going to places. And I said, to your point, it's like, why do we feel the way we feel? It's like, man, we have taken a system and rhythms that worked at one point and then expanded them out across our growth and have never sat down to be really introspective about, do they still work? And that's our goal to get through the summer. So we're going to have a meeting audit pretty soon. Let's say, all right, let's just throw it against the wall and say, all right, we're cutting half of these out of here, right? We're going to figure out how to make sure we're shoring them up correctly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, and I think the thing we were struggling with is we were spending so much time like in meetings and in conversations, and a lot of them are super valuable. And especially as leaders, part of our job is to be present and help coach and others, but there's still time that needs to be done for, work, like actually getting things done and reflecting and planning. And people that are in our role, like we're really responsible for forward thinking and shepherding the company forward. And if we're spending all this time in meetings, we're unable to get this other stuff done, which is where nights and weekends. And so that was a lot of the conversation that we had. Is we run a process called, it's funny you keep saying rhythm, but we run a process called rhythm internally. And we're sitting there, we're looking at these various huddles that occur on a weekly basis. And, we're realizing it's like, man, this one person ends up having to go to like 3 or 4 different huddles on a day. And they spend half their day in, various team huddles. Like, how do we address that issue? So I love the fact that y'all are doing that. Yeah. I mean, we just did about 3 or 4 of us that kind of dissected and we consolidated a couple meetings, we canceled a couple meetings, and then we got an action plan to get out of some of the other ones so that we can actually free some time up. So,
we haven't landed the plane yet, so you have to check back with me. I'll let you know how it works.
I'll check back. You got 7 times the amount of people that I do, so it's still the same thing. Well, I guess just kind of forward thinking as we're kind of wrapping up here, man. I Burton, just like listening to you is so inspiring. Thinking about like the way that your mind works and the company and like owning this Texas market and leadership and the type of people. And trying to figure out this kind of knowledge transfer challenge of bringing in young talent, but then leveraging, the experience that's in the field, and then kind of forward looking. I heard you say, we don't really have like a budget. Like I don't have to be a double the size company in the next couple of years, and so it enables you to control your growth. So, anything else? I mean, as you're kind of thinking about kind of forward looking, the vision as far as where you're heading, and things that you're thinking about over the next couple of years.
No, I'm just, I hate to talk about the company, but we're really excited to empower people to go do the right thing. I know that sounds pretty simple, but to to have a sense of purpose in the work, and so we're really convinced that our propositional offer, right, to our employees and to our clients is really unique. There's a lot of people that can say it, you can put it on a wall, but to be able to go live it and transmit it in reality at the lowest levels of the organization, right? If I've got a young project engineer that's a year out of school that gets who we are trying to be strategically and can go live into that reality with clients and trade partners. I had somebody come up to me recently and said, "Hey, I know one of our values is leadership," and servant leadership said, "But I'm just, I just got out of school. I mean, I'm not." I said, "Look," I said, "You were hired because you are a leader, right? But you're gonna have to go lead without any positional authority, right? I mean, so that is really the ask of you." And they kind of looked at me and said, "You got this." I said, "It is about figuring out who around you needs to be served. You go clear a path, right, for others. And when you start doing that, you'd be amazed at the path that comes out before you, right?" I said, "You just got to trust it, right? Just go clear the path for others. And next thing you know, you're going to be moving down your own path. You're going to look around and say, wow, I didn't realize that." But you take the focus off yourself, right? You take the focus off yourself. You make the people around you successful, and good things just happen. And so
I love that. We did a leadership call it university here internally, and one of the things kind of popped out of it was that leadership is not a job description or a title, but really a frame of mind or a mindset, and whether you're leading a large team or just your own individual self, leadership is the way that you carry yourself every day. It's the example that you're setting for those around you. It's how you're attacking your role. It's how you're collaborating up, down, and across the chain of command with all the people that you end up working with. And, if you embrace that early in your career, and just continue to lean into that, great opportunities are going to arise, and then, promotions and more responsibility. So I think that was kind of a pivot point for us, is just thinking about it less of a title and more of a mindset. So for that individual, it's perfect out that.
And I come back to what are the behaviors that, we're working, you're not working for me. If you come in the organization, you're not working for me. You're working for the values of the organization and for the reason we exist, right? And why do we exist? We exist for something bigger than ourselves. We just happen to be in the construction business, right? I mean, our goal is we want to be the best builder, but we want to be the best business, right? We want to be a business in the state of Texas that makes a difference, that when we're in a community and we leave or we're there, people are like, "Man, I'm really glad that they're here," right? Because they're engaged with our community. They're making a difference in our people, right? The trade partners that work in that organization are healthy, right? We're taking care of them. We're helping them be successful. And we just think that mindset is, unfortunately, not all that common. I know there's good people in the industry, don't get me wrong, but organizationally, when our focus is on that, I mean, we think we're going to be fine. We really are. So,
and honestly, man, I think you will. And I think,
thank you.
You all have a super special company, and I'm so happy that we had some time to spend together today. And I'm inspired and motivated, dude. And I can't wait to talk to you again. So I can't thank you enough for taking some time to chill with us today on Built with Purpose.
Well, thank you for having me, man. It's really been a blessing for me. So thank you.
Awesome. You bet.
Okay, thanks for joining me on Built with Purpose. If you have enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more bold leaders find the show. For resources and show notes, visit our website and connect with me, Chris Fay, on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep building great companies, cultures, and legacies with purpose.